What's up, fellas? I recently posted a video on this amazing torch here. I love this thing. And I took one of these apart and we found this little device inside, and I had drawn these conclusions that it was to mitigate the issue of turning the propane tank upside down and liquid propane spraying into the system. Well, it does in fact handle that issue, but after I left the house after making that video, it dawned on me that how much of an idiot I am. This is nothing more than a pressure regulator. Bernzomatic, the geniuses at Bernzomatic, have installed a pressure regulator in the neck of this blowtorch. It does enable it to burn upside down. You know, that was what I thought its main purpose was. But in any scenario, it's basically a pressure regulator. And this little hole on the side of the torch that blew up on me, and the video that I have on my old torch, is for venting the pressure regulator. As the pressure regulator piston is pushed back into the cylinder, this area, this top cavity, is like a syringe being compressed. So that air has to go somewhere without impeding the activity of the device. So the air is ducted out the side of this canister, or piston sleeve, I guess you would say. Cylinder sleeve, I mean. Sorry. And that hole right there allows those gases to vent. In my case, my old Bernzomatic, which lasted about 4 years, and which was run in some pretty extreme conditions, this upper O-ring failed, which can be seen by how loosely the device, like as soon as I let off, it falls right back down. Gravity's doing that. So that should stick. I mean, it really shouldn't move that easily. So that indicates to me that this is the washer that failed. Now, unbeknownst to me at the time, Bernzomatic has a replacement plan with a limited lifetime warranty. I don't know what the exact stipulations are, but basically what they're saying is if this torch fails, turn it in with proof of purchase, and they will either fix it or replace it with a new one, regardless of how old it is, which is just a great deal. I mean, they've made me a customer for life for sure. I mean, I like the thing so much that I bought one after it broke, which is highly unusual. However, that failure could have been due to abuse. I was operating this thing in freezing cold temperatures, which could have caused these O-rings to fail. You see, there's a lubricant inside of this sleeve, a lithium grease lubricant, and I can't talk. You can see it right there, that kind of crusty stuff. Typically with O-rings, they say, from what I've read, that they would use a silicone grease. So it probably wouldn't hurt if a guy put a couple drops of silicone spray down inside of that hole periodically, especially if you're going to use this thing in very, very cold weather. When my torch failed, when it started to show symptoms of failure, it was being used in sub-zero temperatures, because I didn't know there was a freaking moving piston inside of my torch. I mean, now that I know this, I'll have caution with using this thing in extreme cold conditions. There is a moving piston pressure regulator inside of your Bernzomatic T8000 torch, and I would assume the T6000 or the T4000, whatever it is, it's the same. And it's kind of a brilliant design. I'm impressed. No wonder the thing costs so much. It's got a freaking pressure regulator in it, which is just awesome. So the mystery has been solved. The Bernzomatic that blew up in my hand, this is the pressure regulator piston sleeve, or the cylinder sleeve, and this is the failed O-ring. There was also an O-ring on this side also that I removed to determine how sticky this piston was. This piston here had some good stick. It would stick in the cylinder and would stay wherever you positioned it. However, subsequent to removing this O-ring and testing it this side here with the same test, we then observed that this piston moves freely. It'll stick at the very top where the grease is all crusted, but that's the actual operating zone, and it should not fall back down like that. that is indication of O-ring failure. It's just been worn out. And I used it in cold weather, and I was using this thing one day to light a oil burner, and next thing you know, a 2-foot flame came shooting out of that hole and burnt the skin off, or the hair off my arm. I have a video of that accident. If you'd like to see it, there will be a link in the description. But sorry for beating this to death, but I just wanted to share that with you guys, that your Bernzomatic torch does in fact have a pressure regulator inside the neck. And I have 2 videos based on this particular torch. One of them is where I tear this thing apart and you actually get to see what's inside of there. Basically this thing here is the main component, but there's a spring inside of this also. And I just had to share that with you guys because I thought it was kind of cool. I couldn't figure out what this thing was. I knew what it was doing with the liquid propane and all that, but for whatever reason I just typically associate pressure regulators with that diaphragm type device that you would see on a big tank like this. As a matter of fact, just so happens I have a pressure regulator right here. Now this is what I would look at and be like, oh yeah, that's obviously a pressure regulator, or right there. I'm not trying to justify my stupidity here, I'm just trying to clarify that this is a very odd pressure regulator indeed. And you know, once again, I could be wrong. Maybe they're not calling this a pressure regulator. Maybe this simply is an adiabatic expansion check valve that enables liquid propane to be introduced into the system without extinguishing the flame or altering its performance, because that does happen on low-grade torches. All right, I am just rambling away at this point, so we're going to wrap this up. And I just wanted to share that with all you guys who run this torch. This thing is awesome. I'm definitely a customer for life.